Hello, good evening. Welcome to Prosa com Bertaglia or Prose with Bertaglia. It's very nice to have you here and look at the fantastic subject we are bringing to the stage. Five things I learned in McDonald's supply chain. My friend Elcio recently published an article about the things he thinks he learned while involved with McDonald's supply chain, while everyone who works with supply chain admires the staggering alignment and integrated planning that McDonald's logistics depends upon. I'm impressed by the remarkably efficient supply chain that is cost effective and dependable. The real amazing fact is that they outsource 100% of their supply needs. We would like to learn more about the reasons behind the Elcio's perception that the supply chain is the key to the golden arches, continued success, and the understanding how applicable those lessons might be to others. And to discuss this article today, we have my friends Elcio Gracia, who is Nazar Systems CEO, logistics supply chain operations consultant with 40 years professional experience with fantastic track records in heavy global solutions, McDonald's Latin America, Martin Brower Brazil, and Nestlé Brazil. Also, we have Ed Medlock, who is distribution supply chain expert with over 40 years experience. Most of his career has been in distribution to larger restaurants chains, including Wendy's, Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell across the globe. And he was also part of the startup of KFC in China. He served on the GS1 US Food Service Executive Leadership Committee, independent consultant to restaurant chains, food service distributors, and the other supply chain operators operations. Shub Singh, who is an expert in sustainable packaging and labeling technologies with over 5 years of experience serving the agriculture industry, has led business development for Label International and is served as director of the International Federation for Produced Standards, IFPS, committee member of the International Fresh Produce Associations, IFPA, Blockchain Task Force and Product Identification Committee. He's been a contributor to the Standards Council of Canada's that data governance standardization roadmap with a focus on consumer empowerment, food safety, and traceability. Quick remarks before I can call these fantastic guests to answer a lot of questions we are going to have today. We have passed the 400 process produced voluntarily by fantastic people for you who want to learn it continuously. We are on LinkedIn. Anyone who wants to network with us is very welcome. Make your comments, mention what city and state you are from. We would love your participation. So let's move on. Let's talk to Elcio. Elcio, my friend, I'm very curious here. What are the five things you learned in McDonald's supply chain, and why do you highlight them, Elcio?
Hey, Paulo, good night. Thanks for having us. It's a real pleasure to be here again with you. And okay, I learned a lot more than five things in McDonald's supply chain. I learned a lot there. But the five things I highlight are the following. Number one, internal alignment. Supply chain is embedded in the fabric of McDonald's administration. It has straight connections to every other function, and every decision on supply chain is shared with everybody in the system, with the licensees, with the marketing, with the finance, with everybody. So everybody participates because everybody is affected by whatever happens in supply chain. The second thing, I called it vertical integration, but there's a little poetic license there because everything is outsourced. But in their own way, McDonald's supply chain controls everything that happens in the supply chain end to end, from farm to the front counter, because they don't use forks in McDonald's, right? The third thing is a partnership in transparency. Everything is very transparent in supply chain. Everything that happens among suppliers, and from suppliers, and from the fields to the restaurant, and people participate in everything, and the results are shared with everybody, very in a very fair way, because they use what they call the three-legged stool, being the franchisees, the suppliers, and the corporation, and things are always in balance among those three entities. The third thing is to get basics right every time. So McDonald's supply chain, while I was there, never cared about the means, about how things are done, but about what needs to be done, and things have to be done right every time. And the very basic, first thing I learned while I was creating the distribution system for McDonald's in Brazil is okay, to start with, give me clean, cold, and on time, and I won't bug you for a while. That was the first direction I got from my boss. And the fifth thing is to manage the total cost of ownership. Don't look at the face value of anything. Look at the cost impact of that in the product you deliver to your customer. And I believe, to some degree, all of those things are applicable to the market as an overall. And I'm under no illusion that is directly applicable to everybody. But I think the concept, the basics, are applicable. And that's it.
Very good, Elcio. And now I would like to hear from Ed. Eddie, can you help us understand how applicable those lessons are to the broader food service industry?
Absolutely. I think that the more developed any, I'm going to focus more on the QSR segment and or fast casual than individual white tablecloths, but I think all the restaurant chains that I've been associated with will work for all five to achieve everything that Elcio's got in his 5 points. But I think the one that really stands out to me as being the one that you absolutely have to do is get the basics right every time. Virtually all limited service restaurants, QSR, fast casual, they rely heavily on new products, limited time offers, things of that nature. And they put a lot of time, effort, marketing, money, and all that towards doing that. And it doesn't, if you don't have every little piece of that nailed down before you ever go on television or radio or however you market your product, and you can't deliver what you're telling your customer you're going to do, you're going to fail. So clearly, being good at what you do in your supply chain is absolutely critical to achieving that. I think some of the other ones, partnering in transparency, you can't do it with partners, trading partners that are not understanding your long-term goals, not being willing to share things like the cost of the inputs of the products, and not just, hey, will you sell me this for this amount of money, but it's, if I'm going to buy this and it has this, and this in it, how do we put all that together into a reasonable price for our product? And you have to be internally aligned. Your marketing department and your supply chain, your distribution partners, and your restaurant partners all have to be completely and totally focused on how we're going to make this, what we think it's going to do, and being successful with it.
Very good, my friend Eddie. So I would like to have Shubi complementing the answer that we had from Eddie. Shubi.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Paulo. So for, again, 5 years, I've served the agriculture industry from a labeling and packaging technologies perspective. But prior to that, I've been an operator of a food service restaurant, fast casual restaurant. So I can say it, first of all, it's the hardest thing you can do in your life. which is restaurant business. But the next aspect of it is when you think about food service, you've got businesses, you've got institutions, you've got companies of all sizes involved. And that ranges from hotels, restaurants, schools. So you're thinking about a lot of stakeholders. And at the end of the day, when you think about that many people, it's not just reliant on the people that are giving the food in terms of food service, it's also reliant on the actual producers. And it goes to what's happening at the farms, what's happening really upstream that is not necessarily seen or visible, and how is that going to have a ripple. And I think when I think about Elcio's article, there's so many areas that resonate. But truly, for me, being in labeling and packaging, the partnering and transparency really stands out, because if you can track and trace and you can actually nail down, like Ed was mentioning, what's the root cause of a problem? Where is something starting from, and how is it going to make those ripples across the globe? Because now we are dealing with a globalized system where, when you go to Chipotle, the guacamole you're getting, those avocados are coming from Mexico. When you think about, any other commodity, you're getting a salad, those green peppers might be coming from Netherlands. So it's a highly complex system that's very nuanced, very reliant on one another. So I think as soon as problems do occur, transparency and partnering in transparency is very important, because if there is a fear of sharing data when things go wrong, then that's how something small can become something big. So I think that aspect really hits the nail on the head. But the other aspect of it is always managing the total cost of ownership. So Elcio mentions in his article that Ray Kroc had 5 simple rules, and one of which was focusing on outcomes, not on transactions. So when we think about the food system at a holistic level, what do we really want? What's the outcome we want? Well, we want people to have food, and we want it to be safe. Very simple. But that process of achieving that is very complicated, very difficult. Food moves through many different hands. So the challenge really is thinking about the total cost of ownership in terms of, how much foodborne illness might be created without instituting the right processes, right? How might food fraud, if you're not careful, impact your brand? How might food waste impact society? So really thinking about all these different aspects of delivering that experience to the consumer, but all the things that goes into it. Again, this article, lessons from this mammoth, which is McDonald's, is very applicable to many players across the board, whether small or large.
Fantastic. Should be please hold this point that you talked about, mainly about the food wasting. I would like to explore more this subject later on. I think it's important for us in this conversation we are having here. So let me turn it to Elcio. Elcio, that's all very good. I read your article. It's amazing, fantastic. But is the McDonald's supply chain really that perfectly what are some of their challenges? So there are 2 questions here, Elcio. One is this really a perfect supply chain? And what are some of their challenges that they are facing right now?
That's a great question, Paulo, and thank you. I'm honored that you read my article. Well, I think Shub started touching on it. To get traceability, to know the root cause of problems, to know where things come from, where they're going to, you need end-to-end visibility, and McDonald's never had that. At least I'm not sure, they might have it today, but they never had it while I was there, although that quite a while ago. So not when you needed to do recall, for instance. McDonald's supply chain would call me as a distributor, and I would call the supplier, and the supplier would call somebody else. It took forever for us to gather information where things come from and learn what might have gone wrong with that product. So, and I think today, Shub was explaining the complexity of supply chains these days. No supply network can operate today not knowing where things are, where they have been, where they need to be, how and when they will get there, and how where they treated along the way. So and today this must be gathered in real time. You know, supply chain is built of a series of information silos, and nobody takes the time to collect that because it's too time consuming and too labor intensive. So at the time you would get everything, it's too late to do anything about that. And I think, supply chain suffers that period. It's not just the McDonald's, but I think McDonald's is part of that. And I think that is very, very probably their main challenge until today.
Great, Elcio. We have a couple of questions here, but three questions. One is Luis Silva. I think this is easy. So I think, Elcio, this is your challenge here. Where could we find the article? I don't know if the article is published somewhere, Elcio.
It's published on LinkedIn, Paulo.
Okay.
I'll send you a link to the article so you can publish.
Okay, very good. And perhaps you can publish the link in the comments here. But if you're not able to do that, please send me, and I'll put you on the comments here. Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
Luis, for your participation and for your question. We have two questions from my friend here, Paulo Tavares. One question is for Eddie, and the other one is for Shub. I think I anticipated the one for Eddie, and I'll put it on the screen, Eddie. You can read there. Could you please comment on how was the marketing department integration to the collaboration within operations, and what was the biggest challenge for getting it? Wow, amazing question here, eh?
Yeah, it's a great question, and candidly, one that I don't know that anybody has the complete and total answer to. But it does absolutely require a collaboration between your supply chain team, which would include your suppliers and your distributors. Your operations team are critical, and as is your marketing team. And we put a lot of time and effort in that when I was with the Wendy system in particularly. And when we were a co-op, there was a whole lot of rules around how we did that. But we had to agree on a forecast, and we would go at it several different ways, using our supply chain information system that showed movement to the restaurants and movement to the throughout the supply chain of the cases to the restaurants. We would use that data if we did a similar promotion. I mean, if you know the Wendy's system, we do, for example, fish at Lent all the time. Every Lent we do fish. That was sort of the biggest example. And the fish, the actual protein for the fish, has to be purchased literally like months and months and months in advance. Lent's in first quarter of this year, but the fish was caught summer of the prior year. So clearly you put a lot of effort towards what did we do this past Lent? Are we going to make any significant changes with medium? And we're going to promote it more. We're going to promote it less. We're going to do any value on it, all those kinds of things. And then the supply chain team would sort of prepare their own forecast based on any kind of historical or linked type information that we had. And then marketing would prepare theirs, and then operations would input, because oftentimes a slight variation in operational procedures between a promotion one time and a promotion another time might cause huge swings in your product uptake. Because when you think about using my fish example, the basic build for fish is the bun, the protein patty, and tartar sauce. Well, when you tell a guy to put a spoonful of tartar sauce on it, your spoonful and Elcio's spoonful and Chev's spoonful might be different. So the other piece of that whole thing was using your supply chain volumetric data to really start watching your ratios between your actual forecasted demand versus accurate demand. But it's not easy. I was at a meeting a few years back, and the Burger King guys, the Burger King co-op, had felt like for 2 or 3 years they could just nail it every time, and they had some pretty good data on restaurant sales and throughput in their supply chain and all that. But then all of a sudden, those customers got in the way and didn't do what everybody thought they were supposed to do, and they were having a much more difficult time following it. So it's one of the biggest challenges, particularly as supply chain lead times are getting longer and longer with all the things we've been experiencing the last 2 or 3 years.
Very good, amazing. And Shelby, I think the next question is for you here as Paulo. Thank you very much, Paulo. Great question too. How to better balance food availability, safety, and the costs in a wide supply chains as McDonald's, Shelby?
So this question might be better geared towards the ex-executive from McDonald's. So I might have to pass this to LCO, which is very normal in teams. You have to give the right person the opportunity. But I guess from my humble experience and just perspective, I think food availability right now, there's so much data silos. You don't really know where things are, what's actually there. I've seen that firsthand in pack houses. So I think in terms of what's available, getting food on cloud, getting some degree of visibility is very fundamental. And in terms of food safety and costs, food safety is going to really depend on what market you're competing in. You're going to have to adhere to the market rules and regulations. But I think that's just the starting point. You have to actually adopt the technology of the day and really see how you can use systems to your benefit, not just complying and being reactive, actually be proactive, invest, think long term about the safety of your consumers and the safety of your brand, to have staying power and invest in those systems to really make sure it's safe. But yeah, I will pass it on to Elcio to kind of highlight more on McDonald's here, because I'm sure he has more insights.
You have a pretty good answer, Shub. Not bad at all. But I think I can complement to a degree. I think you start by clearly defining the outcomes. As Shub mentioned before, one of Ray Kroc's rules, define the outcomes and based on the outcomes, not on the means to get there. So in quality and safety and availability is the same. You define what you expect from the food. What are your standards? So you provide specifications of your food to your suppliers and to your suppliers, and every ingredient must have that. Once that's clearly defined, and you define to everybody that not having food available at the restaurant when you need it costs more than whatever price you pay for it, because you're losing sales and people are not coming back for 2 Big Macs tomorrow. They're not coming back for the first one tomorrow if they don't have one today because you're out of buns or whatever. And to that second question, you need to be able to have technology to track what's going on. And I think that goes back to my previous comment. You need to know where things come from, where they are today, how and when they're going to get there, and how they were treated along the way. And we think we are trying to do something to help with that. I hope that answers Paulo's question.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I think so. Paulo, please write down your comment there if you are happy with the answer. I think so. The other question I have here, maybe I'll go through Shubi. Shubi, what exactly is this wide angle visibility Nazar talks about? Is it end-to-end visibility? What is that?
For sure. So when you think about, let's start with the problem. When you think about food service supply chains, the common problems are that teams can't see where product is. And ultimately, teams also can't see how the product's being treated. And in some instances, that's perishable product. In some instances, that could be like livestock. So it could be an actual living product that, again, is going to be transformed. And ultimately, keeping your product safe and on the shelf is a challenge. that doesn't matter where you are, you deal with. So when you think about traditional track and trace systems, they're typically talking about logistical movements. They're typically talking about mostly moving things point to point. And some will include, time, temperature, and location. Now, where we differentiate is that we also provide source data of the ingredients. We also look and deliver data, real-time data on production factors, and that is granular, per case level data. So when you think about the two dimensions to wide-angle visibility, one is traceability, which is kind of like turning on a lantern. You can see key parts of your supply chain. The other part is transparency, which is like turning on a light switch. When you turn on a light switch, you can gain continuous visibility. So we deliver end-to-end visibility. We perform the data integration for you. So we do the data heavy lifting so you don't have to. And we deliver the predictive analytics. So we help you forecast based on your historical data where things are going to go. So help you look around the corner.
Very good, fantastic. And perhaps, Andy, let me turn to you. Perhaps you have something to add to Shelby comment or answer here. Andy?
Yeah, so most of the major restaurant chains have data flowing in at least 3 to 4 channels. One could be some product movement information going through some sort of supply chain visibility tool, like a company like Aerostream would provide, but it's strictly case movement. Most of them also would have some sort of a temperature tracking device on their product as it moves from the supplier all the way through. And lastly, some folks have some form of case level tracking with including lot codes, typically using some sort of GS1 configuration. But nobody's putting anything together. We don't know that okay, I put this truckload of lettuce left the lettuce fields in California, and it's headed to Columbus, Ohio, and we've got a temperature recorder in it. When it gets there, we look at it. If we think it's okay, we basically throw the recorder in a box, download it into a database, walk away from it. Well, there might be another load coming the very next day from California to Columbus, Ohio. Well, that load may have been running, even though in spec, that load may have been running 2 degrees warmer than what that first load did. Well, if we were actually pulling this in and applying some of the analytics that Chubb talked to, or other data that we can collect from the field, such as, hey, this was harvested in ideal conditions. This was harvested in, less than ideal conditions. We may want to take that second truckload that either wasn't harvested in ideal conditions or maybe ran a couple degrees warmer. We might want to, at the distribution center before it goes to the restaurants, not do a first in, first out, but actually start making decisions to move product into our restaurants based on the history, the actual real history of that product as it moves through the supply chain. And one of the things is, and I know Chubb and Elcio are going to talk about this, we're basically operating in a consultative mode in that we want to work with what's important to you. And more importantly, what data do you have that you think is important to the overall quality of the product? Obviously, with produce, which we all talk about all the time, temperature is one of the biggest things out there, particularly if you're doing processed produce. Every degree over 40 is a day of shelf life loss. But you might have another commodity that has something else that's a little bit sensitive to, and you can track that data. But putting it in with all the data together, the logistics movement, some of the ingredient sources, all the point-to-point movements, production factors, and really throwing it up into the Nazar data analytics model and saying, I'm going to treat this case different than I treat that case based on something other than a first in, first out rule.
Oh, very good, amazing, Ed. We are having here a very good discussion, a very good contribution from people. And we have a question from Andreas von Simpson that I would like to put on the screen. And perhaps this question can have a participation of every one of you. So how you guys see we are moving towards digitization in the food service industry, such as blockchain technology? Elcio, can I start with you?
Yeah, I can
So
start.
blockchain is always something on the edge, yeah?
Yep. Yeah. Well, we are using the basics of blockchain in our system. It's not a public ledger, but it has everything else that blockchain has. So your information is only going to be shared with whoever you allow it to be shared with, and your information is going to be safe. We can guarantee that. So those are the 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 commonly talked about characteristics of blockchain that we are adopting, and when Andres talks about digitalization, restaurants are starting to move towards digitalization today, but everybody I see talking about that is talking about customer facing initiatives. They're digitalizing customer facing activities. I don't see people focusing hardly as much in back of the house, and we think we can do that. Not immediately, not in the short run. This is a very complex undertaking, as Ed just mentioned. Uh, but we think on the long run, once we have enough data points on the system, we'll be able to help create a digital twin of your supply chain. So you can simulate, you can help forecast, you can connect, information from the point of sale system to the demand forecasting processes on your suppliers. So we believe we can uh, give a jump start to supply chain digitalization on food service.
Elcio,
If
may
that
I
answers,
add a little bit there?
please, Ed, go ahead.
So, we are compliant with all the GS1 standards, either the 128 barcode. Um, I was recently at the GS1 Connect, and I would say that the restaurant companies that are out there on the front end are probably moving more towards a RFID um, RFID technology, and they're really wanting to expand what that RFID information will be. I mean, there's sort of two pieces to the blockchain discussion. There's what is the information and how are we going to initially capture it? And then blockchain is more is how do we want to share it? I think Elcio did a great job of answering that question. So I think coming back again to our consultative approach, we can say, what do you want to do? What do you want to capture? And what's the best tool to capture it? It could be a RFID chip. With some of the work we're doing with some of our clients is helping track returnable assets through their business, and RFID is a great piece of technology to do that. I want to add one thing to my earlier question too. We talked about tying in with marketing, and Elcio mentioned it. Most of your large chains have good are very robust departments, not people. But I know when I was at Wendy's, we had about 10 to 15 people that were totally focused on aligning on that forecast, managing to that forecast, and equally important, winding down the end of the promo. And I know in the McDonald system, they use an outside partner called Javi that does a lot of that for them. And it's a robust organization. So to that question about how do you work with marketing, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. It's not two or three guys getting together and coming up with an answer in 30 minutes.
Great, great.
Thanks for that, Ed. Good complementation.
Okay. Also, we have a question here, and I'm not sure if you can grab this one. Is Nazar software compliant with FSMA Rule 204?
Well, FISMA 204 is not, the final version is not published yet. It will be published soon, but it's not published yet. But what we're doing will be compatible with any sort of compliance needs that you have. It's also going to be compliant with your ESG reporting, with supporting your the claims that your marketing does to the consumer, and to support your efforts on improving quality standards. But the only difference that I think we have against everybody who's trying to do that these days is that we're not trying to sell on those bases. We will deliver on all that. You'll be able to comply with FISMA and any other regulation that you're subject to. You're going to be able to deliver on quality and on ESG, et cetera, et cetera. But the return on your investment is going to be based on operational efficiencies. We believe very strongly on that, and that's what Ed is talking about when he mentions our consulting approach.
Very good, Elcio. We have another question from Luis here, and it should be perhaps you can grab this one. Are these new technologies accessible in terms of money for small, middle companies, or just the big ones that can afford it? Can you take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, our approach is that each problem is unique. We're not coming at it from the perspective of having a technology we're trying to push in the industry. We're coming at it from working with our clients on their problems and matching the appropriate technology in the right way. So in terms of like the size and the solution, I mean, typically larger companies, at least from a historical perspective, are able to put more capital behind investing into emerging technologies. But right now, there is a proliferation of a lot of these solutions. At a much smaller scale, you can get the benefits of wide angle visibility for where you're at. So it's just a matter of actually framing the right problem and actually working on applying the right technology to that problem.
Yeah,
Oh, great.
and if I may, Paulo,
Yeah, go ahead.
Shub is absolutely right, but big companies have deeper pockets to invest in emerging technology, but we're not launching new technology. Our solution is based on mature technology that's proven already, and there's no need to invest in basic infrastructure. That's why it can be affordable depending on the problem you're trying to tackle.
Great, great, Elcio. Let me go through another question that I have here, just to make sure. Let me see one. Let me choose one here. Um, Also, let me talk about the benefits. Basically, so what would be the benefits of the visibility levels that NASAR proposes? I think it also would be very interesting talk a bit about the NASAR, because I think not all the people know what is NASAR. Beforehand, you talk about NASA, and after that, you can explore the benefits that the software or the company can bring towards the visibility we are talking about.
Okay. It's a great question. Thank you, Paulo. Should have done that earlier. My bad. NASA is a startup, and we are pre-operational. We still don't have any customers, but we executed several proofs of concept, so we know what we can do. And what we do is develop visibility solutions for the food service supply chain. We have a grand vision that we eventually want to deliver on, which is to track everything, our production factors and our environmental factors throughout the life of a product. So let me give you my lettuce example, which I'm always repeating. Let's say you're harvesting lettuce. Once you scan a crate of lettuce, our platform is triggered to go to that farm and ask, where did the seedling come from? When is it put to the ground? What fertilizer was used? What defensive was used? What was the water treatment? What are the certification of the personnel who harvested? So all the production factors that mean anything to that product. And then you associate that to a truck, and you start collecting time, location, temperature, until you reaches a processing center. And then you transfer to that processing center and you start collecting location, time, temperature on that location until that goes into a production line. and then it's going to be shredded, and it's going to be blended with carrots and cucumbers to produce salad mix. So you get out the data from the raw materials, and you get the production factors, the water temperature, the percent of chlorine, everything else, uh, and you associate all that to the finished product. And then you continue tracking everything that happens to that product until it reaches the point of consumption. So once you have that information, so again, that those information silos on the supply chain that I talked about are no longer there. Everything is available. Okay. Now you can do smart reporting. You can report to FISMA, for instance, as the question a while ago, and you can create alerts for quality issues. But the most important thing you can do, we're going to apply artificial intelligence and machine learning on top of that, and we're going to analyze the end-to-end uh, processes and identify points of efficiency improvement that you can find. Uh, and that's how we think we can pay back. So this is the grand vision, but back to the earth. Nobody's going to be crazy enough to go on board of that ship, because the first thing people think when I say what I'm just said is, damn, I have to convince my whole supply chain. Are you guys crazy, or you want to get me crazy? So that's where the consulting approach that Eddie's been talking about comes to play. So we talk to people. We develop visibility solutions for supply chains. What's your supply chain like today? What's working? What would you like to see better? And anything we can deliver on a short run that adds value to that company, we will propose a proof of concept to validate those benefits. And if those benefits are really there, then we make a proposal and develop that. So we will build, the pieces of the puzzle are up to us to build. We will deliver each specific solution for you. And I think I go back to one of the examples that I gave, returnable assets. During one of the proofs of concept, those guys were using returnable assets, and 25% were missing every year. So we developed a secondary analysis, a secondary proof of concept for them, and we showed them we could create a rolling inventory of those assets in every delivery truck and in every restaurant. And we can tell them where this is at any point in time. And if it disappeared because it was stolen or misplaced, we'll be able to tell you where that was. That's quite simple. But let's say those are plastic trays for bakeries. Okay, we're delivering on that. We're tracking assets. That has nothing to do with the vision I just gave you, right? But once you know where the tray is every moment in time, you go one step back, and what's on that tray? Oh, those are Big Mac buns that were produced with this flour and this yeast and all those ingredients. And then you go one step further inside the restaurant, and you can tell, when was it used? Was it used at the beginning of the shelf life, at the end of shelf life, after expiration? So it's a stepping stone for us. That's the approach we're taking. And I think I talked to most of the benefits already, didn't I? Did I miss anything, Ed?
No, I don't think so. But I just want to highlight you did a great job on that. And we've talked about some of the other things, but I think the biggest thing is again this sort of iterative consultative approach. Because to Elcio's point on one of the proof of concepts on returnable assets, that product that was sitting on that returnable asset had I'm just going to say 7-day shelf life. I don't remember exactly what it was for that particular product. And they said, oh, yeah, if that tray goes out on Monday, we should have it back by a week from Tuesday. Well, then we started finding out some of them didn't come back for 2 and 3 weeks. So to the restaurant and the restaurant operator, that begs the question is, why is it not coming back for that length of time, and allows them to dive in and say, are people not rotating the product and using the product on a first in, first out basis to make sure we're ensuring high quality product for our customers. So I think just about every time we do a proof of concept, we learn something that is potentially a problem that the customer did not believe was a problem up front.
Very, very good, Eddie. We are having terrific participation and engagement from tenants here. I would like to remark that If you have any comments or additional comment or additional question, please let us know. I think it's important to participate and contribute and ask questions because Elcio and we are here just to do that, to answer the questions that you have. Um, I would like to have here Shub participate and basically, Shub, a quick question: how does Nazar propose to help companies achieve wide-angle visibility?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take it to the perspective of a company. Now, what do companies do? Companies sell products, and who do they sell products to? They sell products to consumers. So 94% of consumers are more likely to be loyal to a brand that offers complete supply chain transparency. Now, I didn't come up with that number. That was from MIT Sloan. They did a research study on visibility itself. So that's a staggering number, basically really close to 100%. And when you think about companies that have visibility versus companies that don't, right now, based on their findings, 81% of companies do not have full visibility into their supply chains. 54% have no visibility at all. And that's where we come in. Essentially, it's not just about convincing that consumer to buy from you. Really, our approach isn't even focused on as much the marketing and branding. It's focused on operational efficiencies. It's focused, as Ed mentioned, as Elcio mentioned, on looking at your inventory. Where is it? How's it being treated? And are there any insights on how you can better allocate it, better ensure that it's safe and secure along each of those touch points? And from that, achieve the ROI that your company is looking for. All of the benefits to your brand are all a byproduct. But really, what it does help you with is verifying claims, whether it's along sustainability, whether it's on the ethics of your products, whether it's on how responsibly you're sourcing your products. With our system, we're creating essentially a digital twin so that you can take whatever it is you're doing and have visibility on it using these technologies, as Elcio mentioned, that are currently available, that are mature technologies that we have expertise in deploying. And again, we're here to help. So the timing is also right because in terms of the cost of the technologies and deploying the solutions, it is available, it is low. Really, it's a matter of educating the industry at this point on how to move along that adoption curve, if you will. And that's what we're here to do.
Oh, great, great. Also, would you like to add anything on top of what Shubi has done so far?
Yeah. Well, Paulo, really, what motivates us is 1/3 of the food produced in the world is wasted, never reaches anybody's table. And 40% of that is wasted in the supply chain. That's the real problem we are trying to tackle. But we don't want anybody to jump into this wagon because of this grand vision. We want to help solve immediate problems. So, like in that example for the returnable assets, we were doing a proof of concept trying to show this pizza chain that they could track their pizza dough end to end, connecting all the ingredients to the finished product and to the point of consumption. But we identified an immediate point of saving that we could deliver in the short run while building, piece by piece, our grand long-term vision. So what we are trying to do really, and Ed insisted on the consulting approach quite a few times, and I'm gonna hit on that key once again. We want to understand what your supply chain is like, what's working for you, what your challenges are. And if there's anything that's visibility related we can help with, we will, try to prove that we can actually help. And if we can, then we make a proposal. So we have a very practical, operationally focused approach, and we want to keep that.
Very good, Elcio. Also, let me know one thing. I'm curious here because Okay, a very good and nice proposal you have, but is there an alternative for implementation? I mean, you need to start as a big bang for the whole company, or you can do a sort of a proof of concept in this process.
No, we will, by all means, we prefer to start with the proof of concept. We do
Mhm.
not believe in big bangs. We think you should do a profit. But more than that, it's a small proof of concept, as small as possible, just enough to collect data to validate if there is a business case for you. And only then we will make a proposal for implementing anything. We don't think adopting a grand vision out of nowhere is going to deliver benefits. And even if it does, it's going to be by chance, not by design.
Great, great. And Eddie, do you have anything you'd like to add on top of what Elcio and Shubi just mentioned about?
Just briefly, I mean, again, we talked about it a lot. We want to start with a consultative approach where we listen to you and understand the problem. Do this POC, and like I said, oftentimes we'll have to pivot off that POC based on what we really learned versus what our customer thought they learned. Then once we agree on a solution, then we move forward. I want to highlight the fact that this isn't a package of software that we make a proposal to you, we send you the link to the download or a disk for us old guys, and you put it in and away you go. We want to give you a tool, and we're a software as a service type company, so we'll give you a tool that says, here's what we're going to track, here's how we're going to here's our dashboard, et cetera, so that you've got something that when we deploy, that you can look at your dashboard that we've co-designed with you and get the operational and other benefits that you expect to get.
Okay, great. And we have talked a lot of things here, and mainly we talked about visibility, food waste. Um, uh, they are challenges that the industry is facing currently. Is there anything else in terms of challenges that companies are facing, and the solution that you are bringing can solve? Also, could you go through this? Maybe you have a further comments to do that for that matter.
Yeah, well, I think you can start very small, okay, with workflow-based alerts. Um, but what we really believe in, is whatever the means is if it's a business intelligence, if it's machine learning, artificial intelligence, that doesn't matter. Those are the tools. Okay, what we want to deliver are actionable insights to prevent the loss of food, to prevent uh, time, temperature, or location abuses. Things should be at the temperature they should be, where they should be, at the time they should be. Uh, that's quite old in supply chain management, right? We've always been, the right product at the right time in the right conditions, and
Mhm.
the right price, right? That we're trying to support just that, and we think we can deliver that by focusing on your priorities today. Uh, Bring efficiency to the entire supply network, and in while you're doing that, we will provide you tools for all of your compliance needs, FISMA or whatever they are, for your quality assurance management. We can help with audits, with remote audits, for instance, uh, and with your marketing message. If you want to back up, if your marketing wants to tell the consumer, we only source um, products from non-recently deforested Amazon areas, or whatever is the claim. And this is one old McDonald's adage, so I'm sorry for repeating the McDonald's thing. Uh, we'll be able to back those messages for you. So there's application everywhere and to everybody in the supply chain, not just for the food service chains, not just for the Wendy's or McDonald's or Papa John's of life, but also for every participant on those supply chains, every distributor, every supplier, every farmer who supplies raw material. So we believe very strongly that we can deliver value to all the entities along the supply chain, and we're focusing on food service not because we think this is only applicable to food service, but because we know food service better. No, our team is built of food service veterans, and we want to keep that way. We understand sometime down the road, this is applicable to anybody who sells perishable food. So in the supermarket chain, anybody else. But we're not focusing on those. We want food service because we believe that where we can deliver actual value on the short run.
Okay, great. So we have another question here. Pardon me, Vidya, if I pronounce your name wrongly. I don't know if Vidya or Vidya. Um, Shubi, can you take this question from Vidya?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a fundamental step. It's a step that not just at our level, which is a company, a technology company operating the space that's looking at, it's at the regulatory level that they're trying to tackle this problem, which is why are we still using paper when we have, again, the proliferation of so many technologies, such as computer, mobile devices, tablets, what have you. Why aren't they being instituted more widely? And the steps are being taken. This is very fundamental because at the end of the day, when you have paper, there's always that emphasis on potential human error. But again, even with a system, you could still have human error. But at our level, when we're aggregating data, making sense of it, building models on top, we can actually identify where errors might be occurring. We can find those high leverage points where the most amount of change and impact can be done. So really, this is fundamental. I think we're helping companies with this as well, because the critical tracking elements are really fundamental to get right. It's like that saying, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So you got to put the right information into your system.
Okay, very good. We are finishing the talking here, but I would like to have a final round here. Eddie, is there any message regarding this solution you would like to point out?
Just thanks everybody for being with us today. We've got an absolutely awesome product, and we'd love to have continued dialogue with anyone that has any interest in helping them find a solution to the problems that they're occurring today.
Thank you very much for your participation, Eddie. And how about you, Shubi?
Yeah, absolutely. Just thank everyone and kind of leave them with a question that, can verified product visibility delivered by our team at Nazar Systems, reduce friction and costs associated to different complications you might have in your supply chain? Or can you provide new opportunities for efficiencies and value-added differentiation because you're doing something your competitors are not to help you get ahead? And can enabling, food supply chain visibility improve your operational efficiencies? Is some thoughts for all of the audience to think about. And again, we're always here to talk to you guys and help you through this journey, because it is a journey.
Thank you very much, Shubi. And how about you, Elcio?
Well, once again, Paulo, thanks for promoting this. Thanks for having us. Thanks, Ed and Shub, for participating. And the message is we're trying to start with information that's already there. We're not trying to create any new information, but we really believe that putting that information together in a single location is going to drive efficiencies. So talk to us. We are open and available to perform any conversation, any meeting, or any proof of concept that you might be willing to.
Thank you very much, Elcio. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Great contribution. So, as I always say at the end of my prosa con Bertaglia, I say to infinity and beyond, and what we do in life equals in the eternity. Thank you very much, guys. Amazing contribution for the community, for the education here. Thank you. Thank you again.